It's unfortunate that when I hear the term social justice now, I have almost like cringe away from it because I've had such a negative experience with it. I don't disagree with social justice, obviously. Like, I'm all for actual social justice. I don't think what the people at Evergreen are asking for is social justice. Okay, so actually when I graduated high school, I didn't really have the intention of going to college right away.
Oh, yeah?
I was just going to take some time off or whatnot, but somebody showed me Prescott College, which is a super small school, so like nobody's heard of it. And it just sounded really awesome. Like their style of learning, doing experiential learning seemed really awesome. They had both science and art, which were the two things that I was interested in. I realized pretty quickly that I didn't really want to do the art, didn't feel like I needed to pay to study art, and wanted to focus more on science. But a lot of the courses I ended up taking were not so much science, even though that's how they represented themselves, and more about social justice and a big part of just talking about our feelings. I pretty quickly realized that Prescott College was kind of a little bit of a hostile place. It's a privilege to be able to study science, apparently.
But people tell you that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because social justice is apparently more important than environmental science, which is what I was studying at the time. Huh. One of my favorite professors at Prescott College actually went to Evergreen. He's a super brilliant man, so he had all good things to say about Evergreen. And I figured since it was so similar to Prescott College, it would have the same issues, but it's much bigger, which is funny to say because it's still a very small school. I thought it would be a little bit easier to get away from those kind of issues, or there would be more diversity. But my first quarter here, I walked into the library, I think twice that quarter, and there were conferences going on. I think one of them was like a trans people of color conference. I don't know what the other one was, but walked in and they were just talking about how terrible white people are. I was just kind of shocked that that was allowed. Like, not that I was personally offended, because I don't know, if that's what you think, that's what you think. But I was just really concerned that that was allowed to just be taught in this public space, just people talking about how white people are the root of every problem, how terrible we are, and overgeneralizing and saying, like, this about all white people. I've overheard faculty saying different things about white people. I mean, even if you look at the signs on like faculty's windows and stuff, you can kind of see that's kind of the way everyone thought. I reached out to Mike Peros because I'm interested in veterinary medicine. So I was expressing my concern to Mike. We both kind of said that we saw that that was the way Evergreen was going. So my second class was dancing molecules, dancing bodies, and it was supposed to be chemistry, anatomy, physiology, and dance. Within the first 2 weeks, the chemistry part of the class got dropped. There was very little anatomy, physiology, so it was essentially a dance and social justice class. I ended up just taking leave the second quarter.
Okay.
I was actually supposed to be in Brett's class. I was signed up for that and in it and everything, but it didn't really, as interesting as I thought it was, it didn't really help me for vet school, so I dropped it to save a little bit of money to save up for next year.
Yeah.
And then that's when all this blew up.
I will commit to dealing with my own shit. My own racism.
Okay.
There you go. I have a question. If we put Brett in so much danger, why is he here?
Right.
Just a reminder, we need to recenter women and femme voices in this space, okay? None of y'all long-winded ass men saying a bunch of shit.
Entering the library and riding the elevator up to the 4th floor of the library, getting off of that elevator, and then it was just a hallway lined up with white students. Immediately when I got off the elevator, I was told that I couldn't go into the room because I was white. I was not okay with that, so I just kind of ignored it and kept on walking down this hallway. Somebody else stopped me and said I couldn't go in without a police escort. But I could see the room and there were white people in there, so I was a little confused, so I also just ignored that person and kept walking. And then I was told that I was allowed to go in, but I couldn't speak, I couldn't express my concerns, and I couldn't make any or ask any questions because I'm white. And I had to stand in the back. So I went in and I didn't say anything like they asked of me, but was pretty disgusted with the way the meeting was going. People were standing on chairs, yelling at George, screaming profanities at him. There was a lot of faculty in the room, and actually the wall behind me was lined with faculty, and they were cheering on all these students acting like crazy people, which was so bizarre to me. And it blows my mind that they screamed these demands at him like this, and they got everything they asked for. This behavior has been completely encouraged, and that to me is pretty appalling. So after that meeting, I called Mike again. Within that first week, I believe, we went and met with a legislator. I had a copy of the social contract highlighting everywhere it was violated, which was most of the social contract, but all the legislators really have pull on is the funding. I sent at least 3 emails to George's office. I sent 2 emails to the Board of Trustees. I sent an email to the admissions because I wanted to transfer, and I was telling them how upset I was with what's happening, and that was the reason I wanted to transfer, hoping they would be somewhat concerned that I was leaving because of this, and instead they were just like, we'll send you your money, or the money they were still holding for next quarter. So nobody ever tried to address why I was mad. That's why the public comment hearing the other day, I was pretty bothered that it was a 3-minute max, because I've been trying to get these people's attention since this all started, and I've been completely ignored, and then they give me 3 minutes to say everything I've been trying to say for the last 5 weeks.
Did you get any response from your emails?
No.
None?
Never got a response.
And
I got one saying that I should file an bias-related incident report if I was offended by being told I couldn't speak because I was white, but I don't know. I just figured at that point it wasn't worth going through the school because the institution's not going to change. Nobody's really listening to me. So that's when I contacted FIRE and started working through outside organizations.
have you gotten any, and they've been responsive to you?
They've been responsive to me.
Have they,
The senator's aides been responsive to me. The legislators have been responsive to me. I'm sure these people are a lot busier than the administration at Evergreen, and they still have the time for me.
do you want to go back to Evergreen?
A part of me really doesn't want to go back because I feel like my education's been compromised for the past 3.5 years so much. I've gotten more of a social justice education than I could ever want in my life. But also a part of me wants to stay at Evergreen because I can't just keep getting run off of every college that this occurs at. Like, what's happening at Evergreen is wrong, and I feel like someone needs to do something about it.
Were you approached by anybody after your comments earlier this week?
I've actually gotten a lot of support, which is, it's good to hear. And
From students?
From students and faculty, which was surprising because it seems like most faculty are either don't care or are for and encouraging the way this is going. It was nice to hear it from faculty. I just wish they were doing a little more. A couple students told me because I spoke out, it inspired them to speak out, which is really awesome to hear because that's what we need. We need more students with viewpoint diversity and just reasonable people standing up for what's right, because what's happening at Evergreen isn't right. the fact that I don't focus on color, that's part of the reason people see me as a racist. And for some reason, a lot of people have issue with the fact that people say I don't see race, but that's really interesting to me because focusing on the color of somebody's skin or treating them differently based on their skin color, which is what they're asking for, that to me is racism. And like, I understand to some degree why they're upset, because racism is a real thing. And I totally get that. And I'll never know what it's like to be a person of color, and I'll never know the experiences they've gone through. But I think they're misdirecting their anger at people who are actually willing to work for equality and are willing to stand for people of color. And these people at this the hearing were saying not to focus on the way it was handled, and I don't agree with that, because the way it was handled was violence and hostility. And even when the Patriot Prayer came, they have the right to freedom of speech, and they were attacked because of their opinions. And I know this kind of stuff happens all the time, but like, Evergreen is supposed to be about like diversity, not just in skin color, but in viewpoints. And we've taught so much that anyone who is not so far left is dangerous. And now we're just attacking everyone. So I don't agree with that we shouldn't focus on the way this was handled, because we need to teach them how to handle this correctly to actually make a difference, because this isn't gonna make a difference. This is just they're like shaming people into feeling guilty for being white, or they're just attacking people and shutting people down for their opinions and views. So I think Evergreen needs to like teach these people how to actually behave in the real world and actually make a real difference in the real world. And you don't do that with violence.